evening. You're now watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Chloe Feng. Our top stories tonight. New British Finance Minister Jeremy Hunt officially reverses almost all tax cuts announced by his predecessor. In Hong Kong, the Consumer Council warns of potential health risks for children's toothpastes. And Cathay Pacific to add 500,000 seats for the upcoming holiday season. Britain's latest finance chief, Jeremy Hunt, announced a reversal in budget measures today, aimed at calming the public and the markets. But it is unclear whether this can save Prime Minister Liz Truss, who continues to face mounting pressure to step down, Winnie Wang reports.
After his predecessor's disastrous budget proposal that sparked market chaos and sent the pound into a deep dive, Jeremy Hunt emerged today with a new plan and hopes of calming the waters.
The government has today decided to make further changes to the mini-budget and to reduce unhelpful speculation about what they are. Firstly, we will reverse almost all the tax measures announced in the growth plan 3 weeks ago that have not started parliamentary legislation. The most important objective for our country right now is stability. Governments cannot eliminate volatility in markets, but they can play their part, and we will do so. There will be more difficult decisions, I'm afraid, on both tax and spending, as we deliver our commitment to get debt falling as a share of the economy over the medium term.
The emergency reversal includes maintaining the basic rate of income tax at 20% instead of the suggested 19%. A cap on energy bills has now been extended to April 2023, while the government has also decided to scrap proposed cuts to dividend tax rates. Meanwhile, discounts for stamp duty and national insurance will remain. Hunt said these measures will raise £32 billion for the UK annually. But all this could be too little, too late. Following former Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng's exit, attentions are now turning to Prime Minister Liz Truss over the botched mini-budget. Fellow Conservative Party members have started to publicly call for her resignation. Winnie Wang, HKIBC.
Back in Hong Kong, the Consumer Council has warned parents to be cautious when selecting toothpaste for children. This comes after the watchdog found some toothpaste to be too acidic, while others contained substances which could be harmful. Joanna Ho reports.
Most people may not realize it, but toothpaste is likely the first thing to go into their mouths every morning. The Consumer Council set out on a mission to verify their safety by analyzing 30 toothpaste samples of various brands. Of 13 samples marketed for children's use, 3 were found to be too acidic. They boasted pH levels of 3.8 to 5, less than 5.5 as required by mainland authorities. Ironically, the most acidic one was also the priciest out of 30 samples tested.
The acidic environment is good for the bacterial growth, and so it's no good to the health of the oral cavity. And more than that, acidic pH in the toothpaste will easily dissolve the calcium and affect the enamel.
Some parents may also choose toothpaste with fluoride, a substance which helps to protect the enamel. 2 samples which claim to have fluoride, however, were found to contain insufficient amounts of it. But the council stopped short of asking parents to stop purchasing any particular sample, saying it is their own decision to make. More than half of the 30 samples, including 4 for kids, contained eugenol and limonene, allergenic fragrances which could trigger severe allergic reactions, such as dermatitis and ulcers. All but 1 children's samples were detected with traces of heavy metals, arsenic, and lead. While the levels were way below the limit, the watchdog warned of long-term health issues if they accumulate inside the body.
When they brush the teeth, the parents should be around, and then to make sure that or teach them to spill out the toothpaste and the foam produced during the brushing of the teeth.
The council also advised children aged 3 to 6 to only use a pea-sized amount of toothpaste every time. Customs are now following up on potential breaches of the Consumer Goods Safety Ordinance. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
The Consumer Council also sounded the alarm for buy now, pay later schemes, which it said could encourage overspending. Macy Mock reports.
While banks have long offered spending installment plans, eligible customers must meet certain credit scores. Now, financial institutions are offering another type of payment plan which forgoes the credit checks, called Buy Now, Pay Later, or BNPL. The financing scheme is convenient as no vetting is required, but the Consumer Council warned of the risks involved.
They think they can enjoy, buy things first and pay later. But that will be a danger that you might overspending, and then by the time you cannot repay back, you will need to pay the extra charges for administration and also the extra charges because you cannot repay according to time.
The council received 18 complaints regarding BNPL products in the first 8 months, compared to 9 for the whole of last year. Some complained of difficulties in seeking refunds or assistance, as many service providers are based overseas. The watchdog urged consumers to study the fine print and gauge their repayment capacity to avoid getting into debts. On a separate note, the council found that 70% of ready-to-eat seaweed were high in sodium. The worst was this tom yum flavored seaweed roll. It contained a whopping 2,960 milligrams of sodium per 100 grams. That is compared to the daily intake limit of 2,000 milligrams set out by the World Health Organization. And while iodine in seaweed helps with maintaining thyroid functions and metabolism, excessive intake of the mineral could lead to thyroid dysfunction. One slice of this seaweed from Top Value already exceeds the daily recommended iodine intake for an adult. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
Daily COVID cases have remained stable. There were another 5,361 new infections. Locally transmitted cases dropped, but imported ones have surpassed 400. Hospitalizations edged up slightly to 1,760, with 11 patients under intensive care. There were 5 more COVID-related deaths. Overseas again, several people have been killed in Kyiv after a wave of kamikaze drone attacks by Russia. The devices laden with explosives targeted both residential buildings and major infrastructure. Energy facilities and urban centers have already been hit by suicide drones for weeks. A Reuters journalist reported seeing fragments of a drone that bore the words for Belgorod. The Kremlin has accused Ukraine of launching missile attacks on Russian border city of Belgorod. Kyiv denied the claims. The high cost of living in France has triggered protests in the streets of capital Paris. Leftist politicians are also calling on people to go on strike tomorrow, but authorities warn they may use special powers to force essential workers to go to work. Wina Wang reports.
There was anger on the streets of Paris over the weekend as tens of thousands piled into the capital to protest against soaring living prices and government inaction over climate change. Anti-riot police were deployed as the situation escalated into smashed windows and damaged property. We must act and resist exploitation, said this protester, who pointed out that inflation in the country had hit 6%. But if we take consumer goods into account, it's more like 10%, he added. The rally was sparked by left-wing opposition groups led by Jean-Luc Mélenchon's France Unbowed party. Organizers say as many as 140,000 people took to the streets, while police had earlier predicted an attendance of around 30,000. Among the crowd was newly crowned Nobel Literature laureate Annie Ernaux. There were also calls for a general strike tomorrow, threatening further disruptions to a nation that has already faced 3 weeks of striking from oil industry workers. Prime Minister Elizabeth Bourne has threatened to use so-called requisition powers to make workers return to work to ease fuel shortages. Winnie Wang, HKIBC.
Cathay Pacific said it will operate 1,900 extra flights until the end of the year, as it anticipates strong demand for the holiday season. As air travel lifts off again, Hong Kong's flagship carrier Cathay Pacific is adding about 700 flights next month and another 1,200 for December. The flights will provide an additional 500,000 seats for the travel peak. They will serve popular destinations both in the region and the long haul, such as Osaka, Tokyo, and London. The carrier has already added 400 flights this month after the government relaxed inbound quarantine curbs. Routes to Spain, Dubai, and India have since resumed, and Cathay is confident the number of destinations will double to 58 by the end of the year. Boosted by overseas student traffic, Cathay carried more than 260,000 passengers last month, a 102% jump year-on-year. This marked the highest level since February 2020, but was still nearly 90% less than pre-COVID times. But its resilient cargo operations saw a 21% drop in tonnage last month. This was blamed on weak consumer demand and reduced manufacturing activity on the mainland ahead of the National Day holidays. And now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index closed up 25 points. Top 10 active stocks, Tencent down $2. Tracker found up 1 cent. Alibaba lost 5 cents. Li Ning down $2.50. JD.com down $2.90. And AIA down 20 cents. Forex trading against Hong Kong dollar, the euro is at 7.64. British pound at 8.86. Australian dollar at 4.90. Moving on to the UK market, the London FTSE is currently up 49 points. Cable TV has won exclusive rights to broadcast the Asian Games in Hangzhou next year. The news was announced at today's launch of Hoi TV, the new name of the company's free-to-air channel 77. Vice Chairman and Executive Director Patrick Zhang said he is confident the channel will continue to take the local television sector to new heights. The Asian Games will now be held next September after a 1-year delay. In tennis, world #1 Iga Swiatek claimed her ace title of the year, while in the men's, Andrei Rublev boosted his chances of reaching the ATP finals. Sachin Ketvi reports.
With a strong serve and volley, Andrei Rublev grabbed the early lead to go 4-1 up in the opening set. Sebastian Korda put up more of a fight in the second set, holding on to his service games and finding ways to counter Rublev at the net. Korda may be finally warming up to the final, but it was already too late as Rublev was too far ahead. The Russian kept going to the net to put pressure on his opponent and ended this 25-stroke rally on championship point to claim a 6-2, 6-3 victory in just 77 minutes. Rublev is on course to reach the season-ending ATP finals in Turin next month.
The #1 player on planet Earth, Iga Swiatek.
Over in the United States, Iga Swiatek hoped to be second-time lucky after coming up short at the Ostrava Open final last week. The Pole met Donna Vekic at the San Diego Open, not far from Indian Wells, where she won earlier this year. Vekic, the underdog who entered the main draw after coming through qualifiers, was not giving up as yet as she forced a decider. But Swiatek made sure the trophy was going home with her this time. Vekic crumbled under pressure and was served a bagel.
6-3, 3-6, 6-0.
With her 8th title of the year, Swiatek deserved a bit of fun on a surfboard as she's riding the waves in women's tennis. Sachin Katwi, HKIBC.
On to the weather now. The strong wind signal number 3 is in force. With Typhoon Nasset in the neighborhood, it will be cloudy with a few showers. Temperatures tomorrow will range between 19 and 25 degrees. The cooler weather will persist for the next couple of days. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Monday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Chloe Feng. Thanks for watching. Good night.